Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. You can find them at artistfirst.com. Send us your email questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. Here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Seaman. And I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And, we have a relationship.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
I'm glad you recognized it.
This is full disclosure. We have a pre-existing relationship.
Huh?
Now I'm getting the look. But tonight we're going to talk about relationships a little bit. And I know that's everybody's favorite topic, but we're also going to bring in one of our favorite folks, which is Eckhart Tolle. And we haven't done a show sort of based off Eckhart in a little while.
Right.
In a little while. But this one we're going to do on relationships because I think, basic to our experience here is the ability and the almost necessity to have relationships. And I think one of the root experiences that we have in this temporal place, in this creation, is the experience of having a relationship with another, and that can be, a significant other, or it can be your parents or your children or whatever. And then those relationships and how they change us, and how they have a season. They come into your life, and you have a relationship with somebody, and then that relationship will change, and eventually one or other of you may pass away. But that relationship, we've often talked about them continuing on into, in essence, the eternal.
Well, just in general, the experience of relationship is your very first experience here on this earth. And just as the baby is born, a belief system is that it's got to be able to separate itself from its mother, to begin to understand that it is actually separate from mother. And beginning to discern the differences of, well, I'm making that sound, or who's making that sound, or I'm hungry.
Right.
And suddenly there's a cry, and sometimes they have this look of, who did that?
Who's making all that racket? That's you.
And the response that comes is suddenly, there's food. So it's learning the experience of what it means to be in this body, and then what it means to be in relationship to another. And that's the beginnings of it all. In a family, there are many complex relationships.
Okay.
So you have your relationship with the other, which is usually mother, and then father, and learning that there's differences between father and mother.
Yeah.
and any family pets, the furry ones, or, looking around and realizing that those shadows are moving, but those aren't alive. Just the beginnings of setting a foundation of relationship with you and what's outside of you. So when it comes to relationship in general, most people believe that, a relationship is, if I'm in a relationship with somebody, I'm supposed to be happy.
We all know that's not true. Well, no.
Oh my.
No, but you bring up a very good point. I believe the original concept of relationship gets conflated with basically an amorous relationship, or
right.
or a relationship where, and I'm going to state this in sort of an odd way, but it's true, a relationship in where you are not the person relating, you are being related to. Which means everyone is kind of, what you're looking for, what people think they're looking for, is somebody who compliments them, who pleases them, who makes
right.
them, who literally, the phrase is, I want to find somebody who makes me happy.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the genesis of this quote of Tolle's, which is, that is, in his estimate, and I think he's correct, the completely wrong way to look at a relationship.
Well, because when you're maturing, your first thought is, I want a friend. And who's a friend? Oh, we have the same interests. So that's my friend. We look at this, we look at that. We have the same name. We wear the same colors. Our favorite colors are the same kind of stuff. And that's the beginning of trying to figure it out. Like, well, I like this and you like this, so
we must be friends.
We must be friends.
Right.
And
basically you're looking for similarity.
Right. Someone who reflects you back to you.
Right.
And that's the very beginning of trying to understand what a relationship is for a friend. All right. Your relationship with your parents, you already know that that's going to be different than a relationship with a friend.
And it's interesting that you say you already know, because this is the sort of stuff which you come to realize without having ever been explicitly taught it. And some of it is because it's modeled that way. Your relationship with your siblings and your relationship with your parents and your general relationship with your family is always modeled to you as being different, special. There are roles, there are hierarchies. But then a friend is usually the first relationship that you kind of struck out and made on your own.
Right.
And so oftentimes, as you just said, you first look for something in the other that reflects back to you, because you're almost like saying, well, I like me, so I like people who are like me. So you're looking for someone who shares, or it's almost like a parallel play. It's like a mirror. You're looking and saying, oh, this person kind of looks like me, or they have certain, whatever it is, physical characteristics or interests that I can relate to. So it's a vehicle, it's a mechanism for being able to start, let's say, a relationship or a conversation or something. Oh, you like beans, I like beans, whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
Well, to find something that you can have a conversation over.
Exactly.
Something to share, a sharing aspect of it. It was kind of interesting watching, there had been a program that basically is reuniting children who had been adopted to their birth mother or father.
Right.
Or relationship. And the one thing they always said is, I wanted to be able to look at my family and recognize myself in them.
Yes.
And I didn't see that physically. Or the habits were different, or the tastes and likes and dislikes and body shape.
Yeah.
Like that's not how I look. And when they discovered their birth mother or father, it's like, oh, now I know where that comes from.
Right.
I can see it in you. And it's a very visceral searching that happens. You want to be able to say, okay, I have this origin point. I know where this part of me comes from. Physically, it's like, okay, this is my family. It may not be perfect, but this is my family.
Right. And there's it's a very, you said physically, the visceral, it is a connection at that level. It's at the matter, the stuff that we are made of. Not necessarily, and the interesting thing is that not necessarily at the spirit level. In fact, within families, you can often find very different incarnate spirits. And then, but relationships with a friend are oftentimes, you're not necessarily, let's say we move away from similarity and we look for complementary relationships, people whom you find enjoyable, not because they're the same as you are, because they're different, or because they bring out something in you that perhaps you didn't understand about yourself, whatever that may be, and similarly back and forth.
Right.
Those relationships are more relationships of the spirit, of
Soul.
of the soul to soul rather than body to body. Because you can look at another person whom you call your best friend, or you call your spouse, or you have this relationship with them, and oftentimes physically, they can be wildly different, different heights, different genders, different whatever, all different. But yet the relationship is based on sometimes a quality or a set of qualities that you find at a heart level, at a resonance level. It's like, this person is so easy to talk to, or this person has such an interesting point of view, or I find them immediately attractive at a, not necessarily always a physical level, but just at a sort of a soul energy level. Like, wow, I'm immediately comfortable with them. Anything that I do with this person, I feel good about it.
Accepted.
And what you'll find with a relationship is that following that feeling and following those blissful moments, it tends to grow. If there's true simpatico, or true exchange of energies between these two entities, the resonance, the sort of energy flow tends to grow. It becomes like a standing wave. It becomes deeper and broader, and you find aspects of yourself and aspects of the other without which you wouldn't necessarily have ever found, or it's not this. It becomes a unique experience to the relationship. Another way of putting it would be, over time, that relationship becomes more and more an entity in and of itself. You have two which become one, and then that relationship takes on aspects which only those who are within it know, and the shared resonance you can't describe it to another and say, oh, well, if I just tell them everything about the relationship, then they'll have the relationship. No, you can't hand it off. It in and of itself, it is its own being state. It's not a being of itself, but it's a being state that you have with this particular person and with no one else. That's how unique it becomes.
Yes. I would basically describe it as it's soul to soul building. All right. I don't use the word entity. It's too mental.
Yeah, I'll rescind the entity portion of it, but it
is a life unto itself.
Yes.
Okay. The souls build together into a life unto itself, and you are no longer the single soul, but the two working together form a whole different dynamic that life imbues. And life expands, and the consciousness of that expanded union of soul broadens everything, broadens the perception. It's a broader base. Basically, you do need this to have a family. You need a much broader base than you are singly normally to bring that extension, bring the experiences and the perspective, as well as it compounds the amount of patience that's needed in order to deal with other lives. That expansion is a natural yearning of the soul. When you're single like that, you know that it's got to. You've got to be able to grow and participate in a process. And the interesting part about it is that most of the time people believe that the process should all be good. There should never be anything bad about the one I love, or anything happen bad in our relationship because you're with the one you love. And it's like, this world is not perfect. It was never designed to be perfect in that respect. So you're here to learn.
You're not talking about me, though, are you? Oh, good. But you probably. But in truth, you're right. And maybe at this point, let's jump off a little bit. I think before we do, I know you wanted to get and sort of define terms, and I think we've given the terms that we're talking about some flesh. But maybe we'll jump off a little bit into Eckhart's quote.
Yeah. Okay.
Want me to do it?
Yeah. If you could, that would be great.
I'm going to do it. All right. So, Mrs. Tolle, if you accept that a relationship is here to make you conscious instead of happy, then the relationship will offer you salvation, and you will be aligning yourself with the higher consciousness that wants to be born into this world. It's sort of a pithy statement, and I think we've given it some flesh from the point of view of relationships. But Tolle's taking it one step farther.
Right. He is looking at it from a very, very broad perspective. Because as we said before, you're usually looking for a relationship that's going to reflect back to you all the good things that you want to see. Because, that's the way an ideal relationship is supposed to be, where everybody agrees with everything.
Right.
And it's not true.
No. But I think people spend a lot of time agonizing over their relationships because they say, well, it's not making me happy anymore. Or this person used to make me happy and now they don't. They look at the relationship almost from sort of a one-sided, if I'm not happy, then I don't have a good relationship.
Right. Well, it's again that they make a list of things that it's supposed to be, a very mental checklist of what they believe a relationship should be, which is a blockage to the actual experience of a relationship. If you're constantly thinking that it should be this, it should be that, it should be this, instead of being in that moment and saying, okay, this is what it is. And observing all of that, learning what it means to have a one-to-one relationship. Is this a one-to-one relationship, a heart-to-heart, or are we only meeting on a mental plane? Are we only meeting on an emotional plane? Are we only meeting on a physical plane? Do you understand where you are with the other?
I mean, from Tolle's point of view, he's always talking about the moment of now. And I would say that in a true relationship, the moment of now experienced in the presence of the other with whom you have a relationship is experienced in the context of the relationship. And so I'll expand upon that. We all have the moment of now. Everyone, the whole universe or the whole world of people, that's how we all have the moment of now, and it is singularly perceived by you. However, in relationship, a true relationship, the moment of now in the presence of the other is understanding that the presence of the other, this particular other, is extremely critical or extremely important part of this moment of now. If you happen to be in the middle of a big box store and walking down the aisle all by yourself, typically maybe you're in the moment of now, but not in the presence of the other, of the person with whom you have the relationship. Although this is not necessarily true because the relationship doesn't have to be in the physical presence. But let's say you aren't in the presence of the other. When you're in a situation where the moment of now is perceived in relationship, it changes it because it has a much broader base. That other with whom you have this level of relationship is a direct heart connection in both regards, both back and forth. And so the the moment of now, which affects that relationship directly, affects both of them almost in the same instant now. The being state that you are in with the other is broader. It can bring in more grace. It can become a vehicle for having to deal with that shared moment of now with that other. What I'm trying to say is it expands it, as you mentioned, expands it so greatly that it's not just you and some other person in presence. It's you and a heart relationship in presence in that moment of now.
Your consciousness is expanded.
Exactly.
You are no longer functioning as a singularity.
Right.
In other words, you're able to take in a lot more. You can appreciate perspectives outside of what your singular perspective may be. What you'll find is that the pronouns you use are not any longer an I, me. Okay? In fact, if you really have come farther along on the relationship, those pronouns usually are almost non-existent because it is the concepts of the perceptions that are going on, or not just concepts, but the experience of the perceptions that are going on that are being discussed and communicated back and forth. Has nothing to do with I. Well, I feel this. Well, no. Well, I feel that. Well, no, I feel this. It's like, no, that's not a conversation. That's just a statement of my camp is here and your camp is there, and these are the requirements that we're both arguing over.
Yeah, that's profound, Mar. That when you enter into this level of relationship, and you go into what Tolle is talking about, which is that you realize that it's about consciousness between you and the other in this present state of being. That it's no longer the you mentioned pronouns, but the I center, the little I drops away, and it's not even just we, because you don't say to the other, well, we think this and we think that. That sounds a little nuts, But you no longer have to even name. You don't say, well.
It's not about you.
It's not.
It doesn't come back to you, the pronouns. It just doesn't come back. You are basically sharing, whether it is an experience or an emotion or a concept or whatever the moment may be, a color.
Right, but it becomes an I am moment.
Yes.
In the sense of the I am, who am. You with this other, you're in a being state with this other in so much as you would be with relationship to spirit, and being, in other words, you've recreated a fuse, if you will. I know fuse is the wrong word. I can't find the right word. You've recreated a being state within which the little I is diminished or eliminated, because you experience these things as the being relationship.
The little I is no longer driving you.
Right.
Okay, it has its appropriate place. But what has become the overall focus is being in a state where the sharing between the two is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the sharing between the two becomes the most important thing. And I hate to use those words because it's an experience, it's not a thing.
Right. It's difficult. That's what I mean. It's difficult to wrap the words around it, because this, maybe we need to just back up just a little bit. So if you have the typical arc of relationships, you first look for similarity, and you find, people who wear the same polka dots as you do. And then you look for complementary, and you're looking for people who make you happy. And a lot of people get stuck there. But if you go beyond that, and what you're really looking for is someone with which you have a resonance at the heart level, at the spirit level, at the soul level. And the things that you talk about when you're looking for someone who relates to you and makes you happy is, well, I love it when you do this, and you love it when I do that, and I am not happy, so you should make me happy, and you're not happy, so I should make you happy. And see, we're in such a great relationship. Yeah. It's the beginning. It's a good good beginning. You don't want to make people actively unhappy, but if you base the relationship on your physical attributes that please the other, well, those are going to change. If you base the relationship on what you can do, or what you have, or how you can do this particular task, or whatever it is, and that starts to go, well, you change, you can't do these things, or you can do other things, and those aren't the same things. And so as you physically change and mentally change and age, and just people find themselves growing apart. Well, you don't make me happy anymore, and I don't make you happy anymore. And you see that all the time. People get wrapped up in this idea that if you're not making the other happy, or they're not making you happy, that's the relationship is gone.
Well, you're in a failed relationship.
You're in a failed relationship.
Yeah, that's what
we've all heard that.
Yeah. But it's a very, as I said, it's a singular viewpoint. It's a one-sided viewpoint. The two have not come together and formed their own vocabulary,
right,
and established a foundation for the back and forth of everyday interaction, everyday relationship. Because at that point, one is not more important than the other. Okay? The minute you're sitting there going, well, I'm unhappy, you're not making me happy, suddenly your happiness is more important than the others. And that's trouble.
Well, because what is it doing? It's actually driving a separation in the relationship, because
Right.
it's I and the other. It's the ego, of course, seizing that and saying, well, I'm not happy, so the other should make me happy. So
Right. And you have to take into account who it is that you're in relationship with.
yes,
Okay? Some people just are incapable of growing that way. All they know is I and what I want, which means that it's exceedingly one-sided. Frankly, it's one of those where it's very, if it's outside of family, detach from it.
yeah,
If it's in family, you're going to have to detach in a whole different way.
right.
Not easy.
Not easy. Well, and I think the thing that we're about to go back to the studio in just a minute, but the thing that we want to kind of take from this first half hour, if you will, is that there is a relationship beyond this, and which is in essence a being state, a relationship being state, and that's why it's so unique and so incredibly special. But if you're still stuck a little bit before that, Tolle still has a path for you, and we'll talk about that a little bit, because in essence, as a singular person in a failed relationship, you can still move yourself towards consciousness. But let's go back to the studio, take a little break, and back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more about relationships.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indy Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Moonstones and Murder Real murderers need a heart of stone. Meet Maggie and Mike Heartstone, parents of twin boys, entrepreneurs, and now empty nesters. Mike is retired, not by choice, from his position as chief of police in the picturesque resort town of Hamilton. And now his wife Maggie and her shop, the Cozy Crystal, are their only source of income. When a mysterious killing interrupts Hamilton's famous Springfield Park rock show, the townsfolk, the Cozy Crystal, and their lives are rocked to the core. Can Mike and Maggie figure out who is behind the murderous deeds before the town comes crashing down around them? A touch of romance, a little mayhem, and a whole lot of suspense, along with plenty of comedy and thrills galore. Get your crystal magnifying glass out. It's time for some moonstones and murder. Available on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, and other fine e-tailers in ebook and paperback. Out soon on Audible. Get your copy today.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time. The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Hi, this is William B. Davis, the actor who plays the Smoking Man, or did play the Smoking Man on The X-Files. I'm also a writer, director, producer, and I am delighted to tell you that you are listening to the Artists First Radio Network.
Thanks for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the Artist First Radio Network. All past shows can be listened to. They're all available as podcasts. Pick them up at artistfirst.com. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lynes.
Thank you very much, Seaman. And tonight we were talking about relationships.
Yep.
Yep. And the first half hour we were talking about sort of the beginnings of relationships and relationships with your family and with your friends in the beginning. And then we kind of got into what let's say an end stage, not end stage. I mean, it's just a relationship which is truly founded on the heart level interchange. But I would say that if you look at most people's relationships, they're much more along the lines of the I-centered relationship, and that's why, unfortunately, you see so many relationships which are either don't last, or they're not pleasing to anyone in the relationship. Sometimes they're just sort of a nightmare. And Tolle, who is the person from whom we got this quote, would also say that even in a relationship like that, let's say you have a bad relationship with your parents, or you have a bad relationship with a significant other, and oftentimes people will ask him about those things. They say, well, I have this problem with my significant other, and I don't know what to do about it, so on and so on. And what he'll say is that, in essence, you can use any relationship as a vehicle for developing your own sense of presence and consciousness, your own singular, in this case, sense of presence and consciousness. Because those who are in a bad relationship, you're really dealing with somebody who is in an unconscious state. And if you're trying to bring your state into a more conscious-based being state, oftentimes the best teachers or the best guides are those who are more unconscious, and whose sort of, let's say, neuroses or psychoses affect you on a regular basis, especially if you're in a relationship with somebody. As Margaret mentioned last half hour, if you're having a bad relationship with someone in your family, well, it's hard to distance yourself necessarily from that, but you can still use it as a way to, in essence, use that other's unconscious energy as a way to develop your ability to accept, to be in presence, to understand that they're not there to make you happy, that they're just there as part of the current moment of now, and you are there, in essence, to accept who they are, to understand that they're acting this way because they are unconscious, to, in accepting, understand that there may be nothing you can do about it except accept it, and not not let it take you out of your being state and into an unconscious reaction.
You're there to learn how to love them anyway.
Gosh, that's the right way to put it.
Yeah. just
you've got it.
Just to love them anyway. Familial relationships are the trickiest beasties. Because, most people say, well, I didn't pick this mother or this father.
Right. Kind
of thing. But if you look at the karma, you act, especially in the Buddhist tradition, you actually pick your parents. Now, isn't that an amazing thought? You picked your parents before you were born. And you would sit there and you go, why? Why did I do that?
And oftentimes I say you're exactly right. You're learning to love. You say this often, Ma. You learn to love the unlovable in the other.
Right.
And in doing that, you gain the benefit of your own expanding awareness of presence and consciousness. What you see within the other, even the very unconscious other, is that you can still sense that there is a consciousness there below all, or covered up or obfuscated by all the crazy that's piled on top of it, all the ego crazy and all the pain body stuff, and use Tolle's terms.
Yeah, pain body.
But below all that, or just covered all that, like clouds before the sun, there is a shining incarnate spirit within this body that you can sense even below it all. And then you can, even in the worst of relationships, if you can touch into that resonance can be felt by that other consciousness. And sometimes it can start to, by the very fact that you're able to perceive them below, love them even though they are unlovable, that will feed their own presence, and it will feed yours. So to get to see within the other, even the craziest, other, even the most ego, unconscious, pain body other, still source is there. Still, you have that basic consciousness, spirit relationship with them, and you love that.
Right. You have to figure out what it is that had triggered you.
Mm.
You have your relationships with your family members, and maybe your parents weren't exactly the best at raising you.
Yeah.
But a person can only love according to their level of consciousness.
Mm.
So if their consciousness is very self-centered, narcissistic even, you know that is truly a one-sided dealing. But even if you pick apart that, you realize that a narcissistic personality is very unsure of itself. There is no certainty of knowing itself, and there's a lot of doubt on whether or not they're lovable.
Mm.
That's really at the core of it. They believe that they're unlovable, and they are continually trying to prove to themselves that they are in some way, shape, or form, and it's not their fault.
Mm.
So if you're able to begin to see them that way, that they believe that they are unlovable and they're trying to do everything to convince themselves that they are, because until they can see that, they are not going to be able to receive any kind of love. It just bounces off of them.
Mm.
No matter how much you may love them and you may try to help them, unless they can receive it, it's a moot point.
Mm.
So, in one way, and it sounds awful, all right? But you look at them almost like an animal that has been abused and is afraid and is trying to meet its needs and will just spit and snarl at you. But it's there because it knows that you'll feed it somehow. Even if you just leave the dish out and you walk away and it sidles over there and then just starts eating as fast as it can just in case somebody comes by to take it away. If you can see that in this wounded person, your heart opens. Your heart really does. It doesn't matter what they say. They may have spit at you and scratched you or whatever, but you realize that this is a reaction to a soul that's hurting. And to open your heart up in some way. Now, I'm not saying that you're supposed to stand there and get scratched or bit or whatever, but what I am saying is that you take that into account in dealing with the other soul that's in that much pain.
Mm. You make a great point. You aren't supposed to allow yourself to be damaged by this other. In fact, when you realize that the true light of consciousness is below all this, and this is the only way that this pain body knows how to do anything, its attacks and its vitriol and all the things that it's trying are really because it doesn't know what else to do. It's writhing in a form of agony. You don't have to put yourself in the way to be harmed. But if this is a relationship you cannot walk away from, it's a familial relationship, or it's a relationship that no matter what, you must be. It's in your now. It's in your presence now. Tully would say, you're there for a purpose. You're there because you are exactly where you need to be. You aren't there to feed the pain body. You aren't there to be damaged by these ego shards. You are there to be a light of consciousness and to recognize consciousness in the other. And maybe you'll never get them beyond this, But at some basic level, you're training their consciousness that it is still a presence, that it does have connection to spirit. And you're witnessing that and also offering that.
Right.
You don't have to subject yourself to pain or engage, because if you engage, then it's on the ego level and you're being taken into the unconscious yourself. No. But you, in essence, in loving the unlovable, you're loving what is actually lovable within this unlovable shell. You know, this hell that this thing has covered itself in. You see through it. You say, yes, you're covered in hell. But I know that there's a consciousness in there. I know that you're not an animal. You are a being. And just the knowledge will resonate with that other being.
Caring. If you're caring on that heart level, the other heart always recognizes it because it's truth. What it reminds me of is that the story in the Bible where Jesus goes to across the sea to the Gadara, the madman of Gadara. And this man was possessed by a legion of demons. But somehow he manages to recognize that love is walking his way.
Yeah.
And he goes out there and just cries out for help. But all the demons basically take over and they say to that divine love, you know, oh, what would you have of us? Are you going to torment us? And they ask that they be, if they're going to be taken out of this man, they want to be put into that herd of pig on the side of the mountain. So Jesus casts them into the pigs, and all the pigs run into the water and drown. But the man himself cleared completely of this legion of demons. And he's sane, and he's healed, and he's sitting at the feet of he who carries unconditional love. That is amazing.
And loving the unlovable.
In loving, he was loving what to all that whole region that was afraid of the man who was possessed by a legion of demons and doing all these crazy physical, almost Superman kind of acts. He couldn't be chained down. He's screaming in the tombs. You know, it's like a horror show.
Exactly.
But to know that divine love can change everything, and that man could sense that there was an extension, a light coming towards him, and he reached for it. Now, it just bespeaks of the human soul, the human being, understanding that even if you have a legion of demons, and how big's a legion again? It's like
really big.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 1,000 soldiers.
Yeah, let's say that. Yes.
Anyway,
we have to look it up.
I know, a legion. All right. Anyway, but a human soul is capable of holding that amount of demonic activity and energy. I mean, who are you as a human being?
Right.
That you're able to do that, and you're not.
You're still holding the light of consciousness, even despite 50 demons, or a legion of demons.
A couple hundred demons.
At least a couple hundred. A dozen. Something like that.
No,
a lot.
I thought a legion was like 50. And then you've got, it breaks up. Never mind.
There's
we'll go back to that.
There's Boy Scout troops. There's a whole thing of demons.
Yeah.
This was like a Boy Scout troop of demons, at least.
Okay.
I don't know. We have to look up legions. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know everything.
But the human soul is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. You're vast. You are so vast.
Exactly right. That landscape. But I think we're nibbling around this, and I don't want to miss it because we're coming. What Tolle says in this second sentence, that then the relationship will offer you salvation. What it's offering, this being in presence, being in consciousness, loving the unlovable, loving the other despite the unlovable aspects of their unconscious demons, if you will, offers you salvation, yes. But you're doing more than that. You're, as he says, you're aligning yourself with the higher consciousness that wants to be born into this world. This is not you. It's not even the greater I of you. This is the all, which is also in this unconscious other. Because your recognition of presence in the other is because you are one in one sense of that aspects of that presence. You are an individual. They're an individual. You are completely unique. They are completely unique. However, the connection is at source point. You're looking at the other and seeing them in their physical presence, seeing all their 50 demons or 100,000 demons or whatever number of demons there are. It doesn't matter, because what you're really doing is connecting to them through source. If you think of it going up and then back down, it's not really any of those things. But the two of you are aspects of consciousness. They don't know it right now. They're completely clouded. You, in witnessing them in consciousness, remind them, bring them out of, as this madman of Gadara understood, it recognizes the fact that the human being within this maelstrom of demons still saw the light of unconditional love, of presence, and knew enough to be able to push aside these clouds, these shards of demonic energy, and be able to say, save me. I see what I need. I see that this is the presence, and I am of this presence. Save me. Salvation is coming to both of you in this case. And the relationship may grow all the way into something which is a being-to-being relationship. But it doesn't have to. It just has to get to the point where the other becomes conscious or more conscious.
Well, freedom. Freedom from all the pre-programmed responses that you've had. Freedom to truly choose and not have all these voices in your head berating you for something or telling you, giving you judgments of every kind. It has nothing to do.
Aren't those demons right there? All the voices in your head.
Yes. How else was he hearing this?
Yeah.
And to understand that which you are, which is consciousness, doesn't need to embrace all the madness that's trying to present itself as you. Because if you embrace that, saying, okay, I'm miserable, I'm not worth it, look how many people are here that are evil, how many demons I'm carrying, I've done all these awful things, I'm not. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Divine love is the ultimate when it comes to mercy.
Yes.
And it understands that you are a spark of the divine. All you have to do is relight that spark, and the rest of it's got to burn away. You must be able to be clear-eyed enough to see that spark. And that's what happened to this madman. He saw the divine spark coming towards him.
Right.
And he went for it. Because freedom is second nature to a human being.
Yes.
And to understand that spark is more than just the individual in each one of us. Each spark reflects off the other sparks all around it, and it sets everything ablaze. It changes frequency instantaneously. When one holds frequency and is allowing others to see the brightness, the warmth, the light in the darkness, and they begin to ignite in themselves that same frequency, everything begins to resonate. It grows. And that is that higher consciousness that wants to be born in this world. The higher consciousness is that net of life, the net of consciousness that is. It's the true I am.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what Tolle's saying here is in this, you're not here in these relationships for your happiness. You're here in essence for the salvation, but it's not the salvation of one thing or another. You're here in essence to be the consciousness, be the presence, and be the light for the reflection of the spark of the other, the presence of the other. And you find that in your relationship, being relationship with another, great. But if you just find it in any other, then you're really, really witnessing that to the other. And yes, and I'm getting the hook. So let's just say that this is the end of the show. And I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.
The hook.